Okay, hello world, and welcome to another episode of the With That Being Said podcast featuring the Brothers Blue. Today we're going to be talking about education and something we have not mentioned to each other actually that I did want to kind of point out and I think is a good starting point is that you are currently a teacher and have been for about 5 years. I taught for 3 years and our mother has been in education for her whole life. We have in-laws that are both teachers. So teaching is just kind of in our family. Um, and so I would like to think that we actually have a kind of nuanced and more informed opinion about education. So with that being said, that's Brother Kyle.
And that is Brother Cody. And really, to get us started, we're going to be talking about a lot of philosophical and psychological topics. And the first one really is like the idea that education is a core philosophical concept, and this doesn't just like go back to like Western philosophy with the Greeks, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle and all that, but also like Confucius and Buddhism. Like it's all about having a well multidisciplined education, which is another point that we'll get into later. Yeah, exactly. So like it just that's the thing about education is I use this term a lot, but like it's so ubiquitous and like yeah, there's a big difference between like education and schools because they're
Yes.
like schools of thought and all that, and like ideally education is a it's a journey, not a destination.
Never ending. Education should be never ending.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got that point out because I didn't have it written down, and that's absolutely something that the great like philosophers or whatever will say is that education shouldn't stop in your when you're 25 or when you're 22 or when you're 30. You should always be learning until the day you die.
Yeah. And yeah, it just it that's like harkens back to the fact that it is a core philosophical concept, the
Right.
idea that education like really like dude, how can you even do philosophy? Like who does philosophy? Educated people.
So your first note is it's one of the original philosophical concepts. So do you want to move on? Sorry.
Yeah. Uh, can I will read the definition of liberal education because I think it is uh, poignant. A system,
Relevant, yeah.
yeah, a system or course of education suitable for the cultivation of a free human being. It is based on the medieval concept of the liberal arts, or more commonly now, the liberalism of the Age of Enlightenment. And
Right.
so, like, when it comes to the idea of Western philosophy and all that, like, you have the Greeks, and then, like, 1,000 years later, you have the Enlightenment thinkers, and that's like Western philosophy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's where you get liberalism and John Locke. John
Yeah.
Locke is literally known as the father of liberalism.
Right. Yeah. And so again, I think one of the cool things is in that sorry, I skipped past it, but cultivation of a free human being. That's a pretty cool concept.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
And well, something I feel like a lot of people could get on board with. That's another thing I think we're going to come to a realization. A lot of these points is that like, how can you not agree with this?
Which is kind of goes to my point of like why would you want to be uneducated? Like
Yeah.
I just don't understand. Or like ha, ha, having an educated populace is ideal. And if you don't think that, then why?
Some will argue that indoctrination is taking place instead of education.
Okay, so they're wrong. That's
That
fine.
is a conspiracy.
Yeah, that's wrong. That's fine.
Period. Like that's like the definition of a conspiracy.
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Because education will outlast that forever.
All right. I'm gonna read these long quotes. Can I get to it?
Yeah.
Fully justified non-instrumentally through the inherent rewards of inquiry and other cultural pursuits, goods which are constitutive of a worthwhile level of life. The most worthwhile life, or life most objectively and subjectively fulfilling for a human being or community, would be the defining or alternatively most ethically appropriate purpose of education. And thank you for letting me read that long quote, because again, like I agree, I just agree with all of every part of that.
Right. Yeah. And so I think we need to talk off camera about the word esoteric a little bit more, because I think that is a great quote as well. But holy crap, I don't like to call good things word salad, because I think word salad is like a derogatory term. But that's kind of close to, that's not what it is.
Verbose.
Yeah, yeah, it's verbose. That's a better term.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so again, it comes down to like the most worthwhile life. And like that's the thing, is like if you want to have a good life, then just be more educated.
Yeah.
Like it's literally proven on almost every parameter,
Yeah.
which we'll get to later as well.
Well, no, a quote that I kind of wanted to end with is sort of like bringing up one of the next points I want to talk about is democracy, and like the idea that like education is a cornerstone of democracy,
Right.
but like in a democracy decisions are based on reasonable arguments. And I got that from a video you sent me, and I just I love that, because we also talked recently about like having arguments, and
Yeah.
like an argument doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a couple of things that you brought up now are things that I'm going to talk about when it comes to the John Dewey principles of education.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's fun. We'll come back to that. Do you want to read this gargantuan quote?
No, I mean I can. Yeah, actually. Um yeah, I will. Martha Nussbaum distinguishes an older conception of education that is liberal from a newer one. The older being an uncritical initiation of a small elite into the cultural traditions prized by their parents, and the newer being for collective
No,
self-governance.
no, you skipped a line.
Oh, for the newer, and the newer being a cultivation of ability to think for oneself that bears rich and poor alike for collective self-governance. The latter, Socratic form of liberal higher education, is under attack today in the few countries where it exists. And I'll stop there.
Yeah. So I don't know. Um I think that quote is trying to like have a binary position, in that like there's two different types of education happening right now. Um, is that what it's trying to say? I don't know.
Oh, and so the first allusion is to the idea that education, higher education specifically, was previously restricted to the elites,
Right.
but then like we got into the industrial model, and now we need to like idealize a post-industrial form of education. And like, yeah, that's why I wanted to read that whole quote, because again, like it goes into the historical aspect of education and like how it's formed and like how it's been offered publicly is a huge like part of human evolution.
Right.
um yeah.
Well, I think the fact that it was kind of reserved in earlier times for the upper classes, again, kind of just proves that like education is the shit. Like the rich people wanted to be educated.
Yeah, they knew what was up.
Yeah. And it just, yeah, I'm sorry. It just makes you smarter. And yeah, there was recently an interview with Charlie Kirk and Gavin Newsom, and I need to watch it. And you probably also need to watch it if you haven't. So,
No, that's funny because I worked America Fest, which was literally
yeah.
a Charlie Kirk event. But yeah,
All
so
right.
the next point I wanted to make was about democracy, and basically like, yeah, the idea of a democracy functioning properly
Right.
relies on a well-educated populace. And but
Exactly.
yeah, so this is another, like, because I've been bringing up the term a lot, and I don't want to be misconstrued, because I feel like direct democracy is like communism or free market capitalism. These are theoretical concepts that don't really exist in reality, but they're
Right.
fun to talk about.
Which is why what we have for our system of government is a democratic republic.
Yeah.
And our economic system currently is a mixed economy with capitalism being the driving force.
Yeah. And so getting into that is a lot of people like to make the argument about, we're a republic, not a democracy, but it's like every institution within our republic operates democratically.
Right.
However, it is literally what the current administration is attacking, the democratic institutions of our country. And dude, I literally
Yeah,
heard.
let's not get started on this because we have an unelected billionaire destroying the federal government, and that is not what Donald Trump campaigned on. And
Yeah,
so, yeah, let's not
no,
talk about that.
but let's not. Can we talk about a specific? Because I was reading an article today about how 1,200 employees from the Department of Education were just
Okay.
axed.
Yep.
And it's like there's no rhyme or reason to why these people were let go. And these are people that like uh, so the Department of Education runs SPED programs for the uninitiated, SPED is special education.
Kyle,
And no, I'm
it's
just
going to
trying to
be
make it.
one thing after the other. It started with park rangers. Next, it was the Department of Education. The FDA is going to be gutted. Every single thing that you can think of will be gutted. The Department of Education is very recent. You're right. That just happened, and I'm aware
Kind
of
of
that
what
as
we're
well.
talking about.
You're right, and so that's why it's poignant and relevant. So you're right.
Yeah. Again, I was literally this, because it's not like this happened. This happened like 2 days ago, I think.
Right.
And yeah, it's relevant. Like, I have, dude, if, for example, if my special education program at my school is affected by this, that would be a direct effect of, them trying to remove democratic institutions from our republic.
Yeah. And so this is not what I wanted to talk about, but I think that the stronger, no, well, because I'm hoping that our institutions are stronger than what gets thrown at them. So education, law and order, mainstream science. I hope these things are stronger than the next 4 years of what we're going to have to deal with.
Yeah. We'll see.
We
Yeah,
talk about education.
we were.
All right, great. Do you want to talk about your quotes? Because I'm dying to get to my stuff. So,
Yeah, no, we can be done with my quotes. That's totally fine. And I will just show what you wanted to.
well, no, hold on. Don't start doing that because
Kind of.
so one of your notes that I thought was good towards the end is the SEL note. So I don't think a lot of people know about the things that are actually happening in classrooms and the way teachers are trying to affect the way that they teach through social emotional learning and other things like CRT, which is culturally relevant teaching. And as much as everyone hates it, using like I've attended DEI trainings, but that doesn't mean like I implement DEI into my classroom. Like, how do people not understand that?
I mean, yeah, the weird thing about DEI is that it's in like most mission statements of most schools, and like, yeah, it's
It's
not
in the mission statement of a lot of corporations, probably.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of a boogeyman, but
Right. Yeah.
whatever.
But other good things like social emotional learning, so like that's a really good thing for teachers to be looking into and having a knowledge base around to help inform their educational practices. So yeah.
You're nailing it. Like, yeah. These are like the things I wish my administrator would say. Yeah.
Right. No, and that's like I don't think I was a good teacher. I know I was a good teacher. So
Yeah, if you love your job, you're probably good at it, but yeah.
yeah. My thing is numbers too. Like numbers have proven that I've been a good teacher. They've proven that I was a good banker. Like my numbers speak for themselves. So
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, do you want me to share this image?
Yeah. So the other thing that we did in the effort of research is something that I do all the time, which is go through YouTube videos. So I sent Kyle a bunch of YouTube videos, and I'm gonna share them in a comment for this video. Um, but one of them has this image, and we can start with that because the rest of it is just my notes. And so I'll talk about my notes after we talk about the image, I guess. You gonna do that?
Yeah. That sounds good. There's
Okay,
like
great.
7 minutes left, so why don't we do your image and then do a part two?
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. All right, so here is the image that Cody was talking about.
Oh, I'm gonna bring it up actually.
I thought maybe you'd have notes on it.
I should, but I don't. Um, and so basically, what I really enjoy about this image is the fact that it shows 8 different basic things that are tremendously beneficial for society that are helped achieved through education. So saves children's lives. Like, I mean, literally, schools feed children. My son eats lunch at school every single day. He's also part of the culinary program. So, like, you know, chefs just kind of snack all day. So he kind of gets to do that. Um, Makes people healthier. Science, duh. Increases income. So that's a fun one because it's a like, sorry to use this word term over and over again, but it's like a capitalist positive outcome. But the fact of the matter is, if you have a degree, you are going to make more money.
Yeah.
That's like proven.
Kind
So,
of sucks.
ah, well, I don't know. I have a degree, so I'm not complaining.
Me too. And honestly, I made more money after I got a degree. So,
Right, exactly. So promotes girls and women's rights. That's a fun one, and actually something we talked about, or no,
but
maybe didn't talk about previously, is women dominate the teaching field, and men are just like leaving it like crazy. And I'm an
literally,
example of that.
sorry,
So,
it's the biggest circle.
oh, well, other than
Nope.
the other one, yeah.
The boost economic growth is the next biggest, but it's not as big. The
Yeah.
biggest circle is promotes girls and women's right. And yeah, it's a field dominated by women. But again, it's like, yeah, go to a college campus and be upset that you're surrounded by women who are smart. Like,
And not all, sorry, but teachers are, so it's like, oh, it's just a bunch of underpaid women.
well, and me.
Yeah. And all the guys, no, you, as a collective lot, you're underpaid.
Well, yeah.
So it, again, it's like, oh, they dominate this industry that's massively underpaid.
Oh my God. It's so bad. Like, I hate that it makes me want to laugh. Because it's so absurd. Like it's just so goddamn absurd.
All right.
Sorry.
So reduces poverty again. This just kind of goes back to like a couple of these are economic based and kind of lead to the same thing. But reducing poverty, I mean, like it's just, oh yeah, that's a better way to look at that one is on the national scale. Impoverished nations probably aren't very well educated.
No.
Right.
That's
Exactly.
another just statistic that you could probably.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like you're just gonna argue with facts. Okay, great.
Yeah, exactly. Not gonna. Oh, and in my reading, because again, like, and this is a total random anecdote. I'm sorry, but something I found in my research on education for this was the sorry, the reality that there are 21% of Americans that are functionally illiterate.
Illiterate. Yep.
Yeah. So that means like they can go to the drive-through at McDonald's and order.
Right.
Yeah. The literacy rate in Cuba is 99%. So it's the
Yeah.
opposite.
So I actually
That's
am only bringing this up because you're talking about it, and it's something I thought about the other day. I remember this seventh grader. Her name was Onia Robinson, sweetest girl ever. She read at like a kindergarten level, maybe.
yeah. I've had students like that in high school.
And it's like, dude, what? How is this possible? Yeah, I just don't understand that. Um, so a weird one there is fosters peace, and so I feel like that is like secondary education because like I think secondary education produces some good world leaders, and I can't think of one other than my favorite, which is Barry O. But like he's a Harvard educated dude, and like that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so uh yeah, it's unfortunate because like there's a lot of bad things about Woodrow Wilson, but he was a Princeton educated historian.
Damn.
So yeah, there and also like the world, yeah, they're just some weird. Like Wilson is one of those presidents where I'm really conflicted over. Sorry, you can keep going. That's
No, he's very enigmatic. Am I right?
he's also well educated. He's like
Yeah.
he no, he was also a professor. Like yeah,
All right. So before the last one is raises crop yields, and again, it's just like, oh, science, talking about science.
yeah.